Chair recognizes Representative McClintock for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ranking member just told us that we're losing 3 species every hour. So let me get this straight. The ESA's recovered 58 species in 50 years at enormous cost, and yet we're losing 3 species every hour. Now, that doesn't sound to me like a very effective program. Fortunately, the claim is simply extreme junk science. Variations of it have circulated around the internet for many years. The BBC, which is hardly a right-wing cable network, thoroughly debunked this claim in 2012. In part, it reported, and I quote, "The International Union for Conservation of Nature, the IUCN, has listed 801 animal and plant species, mostly animal, known to have gone extinct since 1500. And then they asked the question, if it's really true that up to 150 species are being lost every day, shouldn't we expect to be able to name more than 801 extinct species in 512 years? Mr. Chairman, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the BBC expose entitled Biodiversity Loss, How Accurate Are the Numbers, dated April 25th, 2012. Mr. Bibbert, you said this, and we all agree with it, that no one wants to see a species go extinct if it can be prevented. Why shouldn't captive breeding programs be used to meet ESA requirements? They've been used to bring species like the California condor back from the very brink of extinction. Why can't that same process be used when it's cheaper than the extreme requirements of, for example, setting aside hundreds of thousands or even millions of acres of land and placing it off limit for productive use? I'm told that such a provision, simply allowing captive breeding programs to be used to meet the ESA requirements, would all but solve the pumping restrictions involving the Delta smelt that have desiccated California's Central Valley.
Thank you for the question. Because it's not about the smelt and it's not about the frog, it's about the water. And it's really about power, control. And, you know, my grandfather told me back when I was in high school, he told me he didn't want me to come back to farm. He said, find another job, be a teacher, biologist, do something, don't come back.
Forgive me, but I've only got a few minutes to ask.
What he said.
Well, let me move to Mr. Wood. Any reason why we shouldn't be able to use captive breeding programs to meet these requirements and maintain these species at healthy levels?
It's not ideal. I think most people would like to see ecosystems conserved, but it absolutely plays a vital role and often can be far more effective than some of the other tools that are used.
Yeah, we're told that somehow they're different, but biologists told me that the difference between a species bred in captivity and one in the wild is the difference between a baby born at a hospital and a baby born at home. Is that accurate?
That's right. In terms of the role they can play in the ecosystem, that you know, if you were
By the way, I have a bill that would do exactly that. Mr. Chairman, I'd sure like to get a hearing on that bill in the near future. Can I get your commitment to do that? Thank you. Mr. Wood, what can be done to make ESA rulings more transparent? One of the recurrent complaints we hear is that the rules are announced without clear scientific basis or authority, making it difficult, if not impossible, to determine the decision is actually following the facts, or whether the facts are simply being selected to support the decision. Is that a legitimate concern, and if so, what can be done to correct it?
I think so. There is a problem and a lack of consistency across decisions. Different policy judgments we made or different readings of the science will vary from administration to administration, from decision to decision. The repeal of the habitat definition is a good example of this, where the services purported reason to go without a definition to essentially fly blind in the critical habitat space was they wanted the flexibility to decide what habitat might mean from one species to the next, rather than defining the term and following a consistent, clear policy.
One of the great ironies of the ESA is that it often works against the species that it's supposed to protect. A prime example is the spotted owl. Protecting spotted owl habitats put them off limits to forest management. The lack of forest management caused catastrophic buildup of excessive fuels. The wildfires that resulted wiped out the very spotted owl habitats that they were supposed to protect. For example, the Rim Fire in my district in the Sierra Nevada wiped out 46 spotted owl habitats, the King Fire another 32. What would have been a more effective way to protect the spotted owl?
to encourage the maintenance and restoration of the habitat. It's one of the fundamental problems. When the ESA was enacted, the assumption was if we just leave species alone, they'll magically recover, and that's simply not true. We need incentives to encourage people to go out and do the hard work of restoring habitat and pursuing proactive recovery efforts.
Right.